Good day, brothers and sisters in Christ. I welcome you to our reflection for the fourth Sunday of Lent, Letarius Sunday, Year C. The theme of our reflection is Lost but Found. This son of mine was dead and has come back to life. Luke chapter 15 from verse 1 to 34. When Billy Graham was driving through a small southern town, he was stopped by a policeman and charged with speeding. Graham admitted his guilt, but was told by the officer that he would have to appear in court. The judge asked, guilty or not guilty? When Graham pleaded guilty, the judge replied, that would be $10, $1 for every mile you went over the limit. Suddenly, the judge recognized the famous preacher, but did not alter his ruling. He said, you have violated the law. The fine must be paid, but I'm going to pay it for you. He took a $10 bill from his own wallet and attached it to the ticket. He did more than that. He took Graham out and bought him a steak dinner. Reflecting on the event, Billy Graham concluded, this is how God treats repentant sinners. Today's readings are about homecoming. They are especially about God who makes this homecoming possible. In the first reading, the people of Israel end their wandering in the wilderness and begin a new life in their promised home. In our second reading, St. Paul refers to homecoming as God reconciling us to himself in Jesus. In our gospel reading, we read the homecoming of the prodigal son. This homecoming was made possible not because of the merit of any of the actors in the readings, but through the overwhelming generosity of God. In fact, it was made possible despite the actions of the characters in our story. What do the people of Israel have to show while wandering in the desert? The different accounts we read refer to their endless complaints and even idolatry, replacing God with a golden calf, as we see in Exodus chapter 32. Their experience of God's miracles could not transform their hearts. The prodigal son is in the same league. He had nothing to show after squandering his father's wealth. He returns in complete disgrace. It is not his determination to change that brought about the reconciliation, but the generosity of his father, who was willing to roll away his shame, transforming him from a servant to a son. Our reconciliation with God does not depend on us. It depends entirely on God. Why can't we embrace God's forgiveness and be reconciled with him? Our pride and attachment to perfection keep us from embracing God's grace. We always believe that we need to be perfect before coming to God, instead of coming to God just the way we are so that he can perfect us. Consequently, despite years of accumulated spiritual experiences, we fail to sense God's compassion. Like the elder brother in the gospel reading, we want him to treat us according to our merit. Unfortunately, there is nothing to reward because our merit is an illusion. St. Paul reminds us, all have sinned and fallen short the glory of God. Romans chapter 1, verse 25. Consequently, the spiritual journey is a challenging one. As we age, after years of trial and error, two things are likely to happen. Either we give up entirely or depend more on God's mercy. Reflecting on this reality, Henry Nouwen concluded, and I quote, the older we become, the more we realize how limited we are in our ability to love, how impure our hearts are, and how complex our motivations are. And there is a real temptation to want to look inside of ourselves and clean it all out and become people with a pure heart, unstained intentions, and unconditional love. Such an attempt is doomed to failure and leads us to ever greater despair. The more we look into ourselves and try to figure ourselves out, the more we become entangled in our imperfections. Indeed, we cannot save ourselves. Only Jesus can save us. End of quote. Lent is a time for growing in an appreciation of the beautiful and comforting truth that every person has a place in the heart of God, including you. If we are honest with ourselves, we can see shades of the elder and younger sons in ourselves. We have been wandering, disobedient, selfish children who hold grudges and are unwilling to forgive one another. We have forgotten our ever-loving Father who is always ready to welcome us with open arms, even after our most stupid mistakes and tragic sins. The gospel tells us what homecoming to God is really like. And it is not a fairy tale because it does not depend on us. It depends entirely on God. So we rejoice in this Sunday of Lent. This week, I invite you to listen to God's homecoming invitation by attending our Lenten penitential service. It will take place on April the 9th, Wednesday at 7 p.m. You are all invited. Have a blessed week.